What's up, folks? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical today. How's everybody going? Hope everyone's having a great week, enjoying the new updates. That's one thing I'd like to talk to y'all about today. We're a couple minutes late here. I made a whole PowerPoint for today, and then as soon as I went to go turn it on, it froze a bunch of times and crashed. So thanks, Microsoft PowerPoint. Thanks for being the best and most stable piece of software. But I got a PowerPoint, and I'm gonna use it to showcase all my cool ideas. What we're gonna be doing today, something a little fun. So yesterday, and we are in a little bit of a kind of a lame duck period, I guess, is what some folks call it, which I appreciated. I liked that terminology, that nomenclature. Yesterday we talked at length about the armies in the new update. So we had a big long stream. We talked about tons and tons of armies that were winning or were X and 1 or won RTTs. Went all the way through events and took out the ones that used the new points versus the ones that use the old points. So we did most of our list analysis yesterday. What I want to do today is talk about both combining what we saw going on in those lists and some stuff I've seen either around the community or that I've played with myself, and talk about some units that have received the biggest glow-ups in this update. Now, some of this stuff is going to be pretty obvious. Some of it will not be controversial takes, but I do have some hot spicy takes up in here. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Yeah, you know it's going to be a good Tactical Tuesday when I get a PowerPoint. Like the new discussion of lists on Monday and deeper discussion on Tuesdays. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I might push the Tuesday stream to be earlier, to be honest. I don't know how people feel about the Tactical Tuesday, because it does seem like more people are interested in the Monday streams, and I have enjoyed doing them. So I think that we'll certainly continue to do those. I don't know how much people like the sort of like afternoon time frame for the Tuesday streams, but it definitely feels like more people tune into the Monday ones. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. There is also a potential in the future where we go back to the Monday video format, but at least based on my current schedule, that's going to be very difficult because I have a absolute gauntlet of live stream events coming up, and it's very difficult to do those videos when I'm out and about at a live streaming. So we'll see how we feel about it. Will I be at the Battle Brothers GT this year? No, they did not ask me to come back for the Battle Brothers GT. Unfortunately, chats. We did have a discussion about it, but they didn't want me back, so I don't know. I will be at Battle Against Breast Cancer today, or this weekend, not today. Certainly not today. And I will, in fact, there is a live stream event up. I will save that as the redirect for this stream. So after this stream, you'll get redirected over to the page for that. So please go check that out. That's going to be in Virginia this weekend, and then next weekend I'm going to be down in Tampa streaming the Onslaught Teams event, which should be fun. And then 2 weeks after that, so then this is very exciting. The week after that, so that would be, it's the first week of November. I believe that it is the 6th. I'm going to be actually live on Twitch, but I'm not going to be live on my own Twitch. I'm going to be live on Angry Joe's Twitch, which I'm very excited about. So I'm going to go hang out with him, and we're going to record some content and do some stuff. That is, I believe, twitch.tv/AngryJoeShow. I'll post in the chat. And I'll have a bigger announcement about this later on. There you go. So I'm going to be live with him the Wednesday after next. That's going to be after Tampa, so I'm going to go hang out with them after that event concludes, and we're going to be rocking some 40k, and that's going to be great, so I'm excited about that. So lots of streaming coming up over the not too distant future, and then a week after that, I'll be at the Standish Standoff GT, which is up in New Hampshire. So insane amounts of streaming, and then I think I have a quiet month in December, but then I have a bunch more streaming. We have Everwinter in January, and then we have Captain Con GT in February. So a lot of streaming going on forever and ever, and ever. Amen. Wah. Anything but later. Yeah, we definitely won't go later for sure. Yeah, we definitely restrict a lot of people going later. Definitely. This time, or a couple of hours A couple of hours earlier? Or a couple hours later? Anyway, chat. That's good talk about what's coming up. Also, did a bunch of work on the Tactical Tyrannosaurus video. That's coming out really nicely. I was hoping to have it out this week, but it may end up being next week just because of the time constraints with having to leave. I'm leaving on Thursday to go live stream. Ayo!
Check this. If you took a pre-MFM Metagard list and got rid of all 18 Ogryn, you would have enough for 18 Ogryn and 3 Scout Sentinels post-MFM.
Ryan G, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, the downside is like, I mean, Ogryn are not Bulgrin, right? That's like it's a very different unit. But we will talk about Ogryn and Scout Sentinels for sure. Those are going to be in this video, definitely. All right, yeah, let's dive in. Let's talk about these units. These units that we're going to talk about. Earlier is good, otherwise my stream runs into stat check. Oh, I don't know when stat check streams. I guess I could do earlier just to make sure that doesn't happen. If I just tried to stream every day, no, just Monday, Tuesday, and then the weekend streams, and then obviously Twitch streams. I think actually this week, I don't think I'm live Friday, at least not yet, but I do have streams scheduled every day this week besides Friday because we're live. We were live Sunday. We were live yesterday with the. We were live Sunday on Twitch. We were live yesterday with the list review stream. Obviously, we're live today. I have a game scheduled tomorrow, and I have a game scheduled Thursday morning, and then I'm leaving to go to Battle Against Breast Cancer, and then we're streaming those 2 days, and then theoretically, I'm back those Monday and Tuesday. So I am on like an almost like 10 or 12 day streak, right? I guess like a 10-day streak with one break in the middle of travel. So I guess maybe I lied to you. Maybe I am live every day, unintentionally. Yeah, no, but actually, yes, that's true. Yeah, sometimes I don't really conflate the Twitch and the YouTube streams. Like, it's a very different vibe, right? Yeah, if you combine those two, I think it may end up being that I'm live almost every day. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I'm excited to go see his setup. He's got so many cameras. I love cameras. I love. Yeah, I don't know. Just got a really nice streaming studio. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm actually hoping to have my army painted for that meetup. So I'm probably gonna bring some paints with me over at Battle Against Breast Cancer and do some afternoon painting. Apparently there were some wild lists over the weekend coming from Poland. Oh, I don't know anything about that. I have a tough time because. So, like, some events use non-BCP sort of event running software, and obviously, I don't have the time in the day to go through every single like different, independent event thing. So if it's not on BCP, I generally speaking don't look at it. And I know that there's a couple European communities that do not use Best-Case pairings. So we end up sort of losing out on a little bit of data there, which is a little bit unfortunate, but unfortunately for me, that's just how it's got to be. Anyway, chat, let's dive in. So let's talk about some good stuff from this data slate in different factions. Ooh. Let's talk about Eldar. Oh no, this is too big. It's too big for my poor stream output. Let's fix that. Here you go, Eldar. Now you get to be the correct size for this stream. We'll even make you a little smaller so people can see. So yeah, the two things that really shocked me about the Eldar MFM, and I don't think is going to be particularly surprising, but the Falcon was already a widely played vehicle. I think the Falcon went from being played fairly often to being basically like a windmill slam auto include in a lot of armies. Getting a points discount on your vehicle that mounts basically 3 las cannons and also is a fast mover with fire support. You compare this thing to a Razorback, and the Razorback like just cries and goes home. It is extremely sad. But then, you're also able to embark 6 Eldari, aspect warrior infantry. Your version of fire support's better than everyone else's fire support. You got floating rerolls on top of that. Obviously, the las cannons aren't exactly 3 las cannons. It's a bright lance and 2 pulse laser shots. But the pulse lasers are a little bit worse. However, with the floating rerolls, mathematically they get pretty close to where a las cannon's at. If you essentially add add like 2 more shots between the hit and the wound reroll on those things. It feels like having 2 ish less cannons. So yeah, just a super duper powerful vehicle. There has been some play from the Fire Prism already, and as well as some other units. So the Fire Prism is the other kind of competitor. I don't know whether or not Eldar is really looking for that heavy weapon platform quite as much. The Falcon is like good because it brings the heavy weapons with them, but it also supports your mass infantry or your elite infantry, which is kind of what Eldar really want to do. And I think that means this thing's going to go from already being played in several archetypes. I don't want to say every single list, but to being a very, very strong inclusion. The Fire Prism is the other option there. The other thing is we already saw there was an RTT over the weekend. Not quite mass Corsair Voidreavers, but I think there were 2 or 3 units of Corsair Voidreavers in that list. Those guys go down to 60 points, 12 points a model for a unit that can pack pretty good shooting and also pretty good melee. That also then they get scout, they benefit from the transport synergies. There's just like so many good things about them. They have like an invulnerable save baked in on their unit champion. Those guys look sweet, and I don't think that they necessarily overshadow a lot of the other utility that Eldar have, because Eldar have some of the most incredible utility in the game, but they definitely are an alternative option to something like Rangers, right? They're like a different forward operator. They're scout versus infiltrate, which is a very just different unit, and they're better in different capacities, right? Because they're not. I don't think they're quite as tanky, because Rangers have they have stealth and they have the baked in invuln save, but also they don't really do anything when it comes to fighting people in melee. An important thing to note: Void Reavers don't get the army rule. Is it non and Rothe units? I don't think. They don't have the ability. Not the. I'm thinking of the battle line. I imagine that they just don't have Strands of Fate on the datasheet. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a huge deal, to be honest, because they are like a utility unit. The downside, I guess, is that they can't auto advance, which is unfortunate for them. But for the most part, that's not really a unit that you were going to be drumping Fate dice on anyway. But that is a good thing to note for sure. It is a weird anti-synergy. I guess it makes the 4+ invuln save a little bit less abusive. That's probably what it does. You can't just like eat a bunch of high AP shots on the unit champion for a while and then keep the unit alive forever. Yeah. 60 points are great. Having OC2 quite rare and cheap Eldar stuff. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I think, so I was curious about that unit when the points went down, and it already seems like it's having success. And it's interesting, too, that there are, like, seems like unironically multiple builds for them, because some people are rocking the guns, some people are rocking the melee attacks. Their melee attacks aren't too bad. They have 2 strength 4 AP2 weapon swings a piece, which is pretty good. And then they also get, like, some pretty good special weapons. They can get a blaster. If you take 10, they get a Wraith Cannon, but who cares? You're not going to take 10. You're only taking 5. So they're probably getting a blaster, so they have a D6 +1 damage, like anti-tank weapon in there as well. They do get the detachment ability, though. That is important to note. So getting a hit and a wound reroll off of the blaster is a big deal. All right. The other unit that was sort of surprisingly seeing some play, they were already seeing play previously in Eldar, and it looks like may see more play. I don't know if it will continue, because I think there are better things that the faction could be bringing, but we'll see. Is Shining Spears? I didn't know if I wanted to put them on here as well, because I wasn't sure if I believed them in quite as much as other people do. But they are... I don't know, getting some play around the place. They're just super fast, move 14, -1 to be hit. They have invuln saves and a bunch of 2 damage melee attacks. It's pretty good. They're down to 90 points now, so they can trade. Like they're kind of like purpose built to just like vaporize medium infantry. They're good at killing like Space Marines essentially, and your very high high probability to knock out a Space Marine unit when you hit them. The downside is that you're usually trading down in that case, but if you can get other use out of them on the at the same time, I think they're probably pretty good. So yeah, I don't know exactly how I feel about this unit so much, but there were occasionally people playing Shining Spears beforehand, and now it seems like there are more people playing Shining Spears, so it's probably all right. The Shining Spear's hidden 4+. Oh yeah, if you take, because you can take the Shimmer Shield, but you don't have to. Yeah, it's on the Exarch, who's also the model with the most wounds too. So he also has like kind of a he's kind of tanky. They do that a lot in Eldar. There are a lot of hidden upgrades on data sheets where it's like, you can take this thing because we included it in the box. There's no downside. You could take it. It's like Wraith Lords, I think, right? Wraith Lords are like, you have an arm gun and a sword, and you can take up to 2 heavy weapons. It doesn't trade for anything. You just take them. You're like, okay, so I guess I would do that. Yeah, those shuriken cannons. Gotta take those shuriken cannons, chat. That's important. All right, so that's Eldar. We talked about Eldar, Custodes, and Death Guard. I hope I didn't cut the title off. No, we're okay. The Death Guard thing I don't think is that surprising. It's another unit that was already seeing a lot of play, and it got cheaper. It's Destroy Terminators. Hello, what's up, guys? How you doing? I don't know. Even better now. I almost didn't even include them. I was like, fuck it. What are we going to talk about? The unit that already got played is not cheaper? Okay. Trajan Valoris is the interesting one. Some of the most effective Custodian lists we saw over the course of the weekend brought Trajan back. Poor, be-nerfed Trajan is returning to play. Slowly but surely, he's now a more competitive price point compared to the other Custodes characters. He hits way harder than they do, and he has, I don't want to say like good utility for the unit. His leadership abilities are okay. He can be tanky if he wants to, but that's kind of less important. That's less impactful than just the fact that you get this insane beat stick. So that was the one big takeaway. He was like, slowly but surely returning to play, very slowly. He's tough to justify over a Blade Champion, but it seems like a lot of players are putting him back in their lists now. Whether or not that's the correct decision, I guess that remains to be seen. But he definitely has some bonuses compared to those Blade Champions, because they can have some inconsistent weapon profiles. If your rerolls don't go so hot, or you don't get your good criticals. But Trajan in there with a bunch of high strength, just a million high strength 3 damage attacks. He'll kill whatever once per game. Death Guard stonks actually way up. Yeah, I don't disagree, chat. I think Death Guard if we want to talk about factions that saw a glow up, I think Death Guard are one of the biggest ones. Not only did they get points cuts on a bunch of different stuff, Chaos Knights also, and some Nurgle Demons also got points cuts, things that Death Guard were also taking. So they got like indirectly buffed by, it was just a bunch of bonuses for them. I also wonder too if like we're probably heading into this meta where there are gonna be like these larger hordes of like these close range infantry, and Death Guard traditionally have been a faction that just sweeps infantry all day. Turns out the faction that has a bunch of Grim Reapers in it is good at killing a bunch of little men. So you have these things like bricks of Destroy Terminators with like huge numbers of anti-infantry flamers and stuff like that, which could also see some improved play as well. That remains to be seen, I think, as the metagame shakes out. But there's a sneaking suspicion that I have that we start to see things like Genestealer Cult take a bunch of bodies. Orcs probably have a little bit of a leg up as well. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how they go, but I do think Death Guard, even just at a baseline level, are looking really, really nice. And for sure, a big points cut on probably one of their best data sheets is one reason for that. I think we live in a world where 48 Death Guard Terminators might become an actual list. I mean, maybe. I don't know, that'd be cool. You can wombo combo out the Blightlord Terminators to do some okay range damage, but it's like so much work. I don't know if I'm that into it, but we'll see how they do. It might just be that the heavy infantry profile is enough, like the T6, 2 up, 4 up, you know, with a situational -1 to be hit is enough to keep them going. I don't know. That's what we'll have to see. I'm kind of excited for it. They still move 4. Yeah, but that's like less impactful when you rapid ingress and stuff, right? Like at least one of these units is rapid ingressing turn 2 and turn 3, right? And then they're probably getting okay charges at the very least. And a lot of what they do is they just absorb the center of the table, right? They just like sort of become this amorphous blob where they just touch all the middle objectives and lock them. And then you have to like fight back from there, and that's the tough part. Played against an army of Death Guard Terminators recently. It was misery. Oh boy. Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of like a sort of like meta synergy too, right? Where if everyone takes more anti-light infantry stuff, or you take higher volume attacks to clear light infantry, the Terminator profile gets really, especially the T6 Terminator profile, gets really good. Because it means that like strength 5 and strength 3 weapons have a tough time punching through, and those are most of the sort of infantry sweepers in the game. So I don't know. They still fall down to heavy infantry, like anti-heavy infantry weapons, but I don't know how often we'll see those. It remains to be seen. Think the points change was a typo. It was meant for Blightlords. That could be the case, chat. That's definitely possible. It's not like we haven't seen that happen a million times before. What would it have put Blightlords to? Pull up the data slate real quick. I thought I had it open, but I guess maybe I'm a silly goose. So it was 110 to 220. I don't think they would have put Blightlords that low, right? If you put Blightlord Terminators down to 22 points a model, I feel like you're for sure gonna spam them. Maybe it was just like the downgrade, but I do think there's a consideration, right? It feels to me, and maybe I assign too much credit to Games Workshop, but it feels to me like occasionally they just write off a datasheet. Where they're like, hey, this edition, or in this current incarnation of the rules, this datasheet is twash. It's unplayable. We fucked it. And it's like part of the core design of 40k, right? Where they just have to, we've talked about it a million times, but there's like old-timey legacy models. It's the Power Fist and the Stormbolter guy from Space Hulk. You're like, okay, but that's not an actual weapon loadout that in a game system where weapons always have the same offensive profile, sans like some specific examples and special abilities, that is like ever useful. It hasn't been useful for a million years. It turns out like the dedicated like melee dudes with the short range like screen sweeper weapon is really good. Destro Terminators are a collection of abilities that works well together, which is why they're usually played way more often than Blightlords. And it feels like occasionally they just take one of these data sheets and they're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're not even going to spend development time trying to fix this unit. Just throw them by the wayside. They cost what they cost. It's whatever. And instead, we turn around and we play and we make the unit that everyone's already taking better. And if you want to just strictly, without changing sort of the internal balance of the faction almost at all, if you want to simply make a faction better, the easiest way to do it is just take the stuff that people are already playing and make it better. And that's basically what they did, right? Like, Mortarion wasn't really seeing that much play, and I'm still not entirely sure he's going to see that much play at 300. But, like, dropping a Putrefire and Destro Terminators, those are just two units that very basically see play in almost every list. You are just giving Death Guard players, like, at least a 30 to 50 point, like, discount. Not including their Chaos Knights that got discounted as well. So I feel like I think that was the intention behind the change, and they have done that in the past. Like there has been very pointed points changes just specifically to change the balance of a faction without really worrying about its internal balance. Which, you know, I think some people might disagree with it, but it's definitely, if you're trying to go through like 20 armies very quickly, that's definitely the way to do it. Like, do we have to consider the implications of putting Blight Lord Terminators down to whatever, you know, 29 points or something? I don't know, but we'll see. I can imagine the balance team, see some of the data sheets the Codex team, right, and just grown for sure, dude. Yeah, I don't know entirely what the internal structure looks like. I mean, most sort of game design studios have a design team that's responsible for like the first iteration. So they come up with new mechanics and they try to marry them thematically and stuff like that. And then the development team that hones them down and makes them more playable and balanced. I don't know if Games Workshop entirely has those two like distinctions. I know for a while they straight up did not have the development side. It was all design all the time, which is why we often got like super, you know, bottom up or top down designs that were like kind of hokey. It feels like they have a little bit more of a competent balance team now, but I imagine that there's like maybe a little bit of tension between the two. GW has decided to abandon Cataphren destroyers and add mech this edition. They have a hideously bad profile issue ability. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's like some stuff where it's just their weapon profile is not very useful, and you could make that up with a special ability, right? And then they just like, to some extent, in indexes for sure, and this did carry over to some codexes and is still doing that. They just copy pasted, like they were like, all right, which one should we give? Reroll hits against enemies on objectives. Throw it on that datasheet. Okay, cool. How about once per turn blanket damage, or once per game blanket damage? Or throw it on that datasheet. Okay, and they're like, we filled out all the datasheets that way. And some of those abilities are really good, and some of those abilities are really bad. And I don't know if they're necessarily valued to the same level. Custodes jet bikes written off already? Yeah, that's another one for sure. Points can't fix it unless they're utterly broken. Yeah, you can point your way into making any unit good, but you definitely don't want to make them too small. Glad they're systematically going through and getting rid of abilities like 5+ Overwatch. Yeah, that one's a good one. And it's always like 5 when you're standing on an objective, you get 5+ Overwatch, but it's like 3 guys that shoot 6 times. You're like, I would never pay for Overwatch on this unit. Why? Why did you give me this? At least give me full reroll Overwatch or something. I don't know. If next year's truly the year of Chaos, hoping Thousand Suns get more of a range expansion. Yeah, I agree for sure. 100%. Plague Marine's ability is great. It's like they have like reroll battle shock checks, right? Plague Marine's ability is that they can double attach Fetid Varian units and they get 3 heavy plague weapons. That's Plague Marine's ability. Plague Marines were a unit that didn't necessarily need to have a datasheet ability because their other stuff is good. Yeah, also having this sticky objectives is good. That's just the detachment rule, though. +1 to battle shock if on an infected objective marker. Incredible. Incredible. All right, chat. Let's move on. Let's talk about some other factions. Genestealer Cults. I think that the big winner here is honestly, Genestealer Cults won. They don't know how not to win. All they're doing is winning. Basically, like, it's another instance where a lot of the stuff that was already getting play got buffed, right? We saw Acolytes go down. We saw Neophytes go down. We saw Adelan Jackals go down. All that stuff that everyone was already taking got points cuts, which is very strong. The one thing I think that has made some very meaningful changes is 5 model Aberrant squads. Because basically, back in my day, Aberrants were this very binary unit. You either took 10 or you took 0, right? But now you get these 5 dudes. We're gonna pull up their data sheet. They're a good outlet for character attachments. Like Abominants are just good, and but oftentimes you had to take Abominants by themselves because you didn't want to pay all the points for the big 5-man or for the big units. But they're just 3 wound, like 5 up invuln save dudes with a good melee profile and that have like great character attachments. So being able to act as a delivery system for those characters has really transformed a lot of Genestealer Cult detachments, especially the detachments that have the capacity to like deliver them. So it seems to me like people were already making this slow move towards the name of the detachment is the Biophagus detachments. Biosanctic Brood Surge, excuse me. It seems to me like people were very slowly making this push towards Brood Surge, and the fact that they discounted the Aberrants gave that detachment immediately just so much more play, because now you can be like, oh, cool, this is unit that meshes really well with this detachment that also I get to add like the characters that the detachment wants me to take into, and gives the detachment just like a lot of like a good baseline of both resilience and damage, which it really wants. And that's the big thing that the big takeaway I saw. Obviously, you can play Outlander Claw. You can play all of the normal stuff in Genestealer Cults, and it's just better now because all this core stuff went down, so GSC lists are just cheaper. But the big one, the new inclusion that I saw were these little tiny 5-man Aberrant squads running around everywhere. And I think it's going to be interesting the more we see about them. I think their defensive profile for cost is actually really good, right? They're T6, right? What's their toughest feeling? They're T6 with 5+ feel no pain. Potentially -1 to be wounded if you do have the character in there. But at that point scale value, they're only 27 points a model, and they have a AP2 2 damage melee attack. They're like Bulgrin without the -1 damage, basically. But you pay less points, and you get Deep Strike. It's kind of weird they dropped the points on the fairly efficient battle line troops, not so much on the hideously overcosted leaders. Yeah, I mean, like, dropping points on the leaders it's a little funny. I mean, they did drop the points, right? Unlike, like, the Primuses, you usually take a couple of those, especially in, like, Ascension Host. And you don't want to drop, like, some of the other stuff, like Kellermorphs, you don't really want to drop. That gets a little bit scary. But the character points drops are actually don't matter that often, because you only ever get a couple of them, in some cases just one. Whereas if you're trying to meaningfully change the faction, dropping the points on the things that get taken in multiples gives you way more points to play with. I do think some of their characters are a little still overcosted, but I'd be interested to see if the Benefactus turns around at 70. Because at 80 he seemed super bad. At 70 he seems not quite as bad, but still, I don't know. Like T3 3-wound guy with a big laser cannon is a little bit funny. Who could kill himself? Yeah, they do have a better feel no pain, but the better feel no pain and the -1 damage are like, I guess theoretically kind of commensurate. So they're almost the same. Oh, they don't have an invuln save. I guess that's the difference. They lose the invuln but up the feel no pain. So I don't know. Take from that what you will. And then also can get -1 to be wounded. I bet they're pretty similar beyond the -1 damage. Still nope. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, chat. Playing into GSC is not going to be fun. I don't know. GSC always feels kind of fun, because you just get to kill so many guys. When GSC doesn't die is where things get frustrating, but you get to do so much murder. You get to make all your attacks, and they all matter. I guess you can't run into the situation with Genestealer Cult where it's just like you're basically just boned. And it feels like super worthless, but I don't think that they're that level. That was like real edition release level Genestealer Cults, where they were just like, you could attack them, but it didn't do anything. Because they like killing them actually just made them more powerful, because then they would like rapid ingress onto your home objective or something stupid. Pretty wild. It's only fun if the GSC player rolls terribly. I don't know. I feel like if half the stuff you kill in Genestealer Cult comes back, then I think the game's like probably fine. Which I think is what they're sort of like, they're kind of like pointed around, right? They're sort of balanced around the fact that like theoretically you'll get like a 50-50 back. Like obviously it gets better on the early turns, it gets worse in later turns, but like if you get 30 to 50% of your units back over the course of the game, then hopefully it feels okay. Way more fun to play now than in the next. I mean, that's true. You're not wrong, chat, for sure. The index you start out was brutal. You had to build specifically for them, otherwise they killed you. That was very annoying. Once you answered them, they did fall over, which is why they never got to the same level as Eldar. But Eldar were sort of inherently unanswerable. But it was frustrating. Orks time, chat. Orks time. Let's talk about the kill rig. Because every time I like scroll through the Ork Militarum, I see that kill rig points value, and I'm like, whoa. And I almost, to the point where I almost wonder if the Hunter rig is good. I feel like it's super duper not, because you would just, for 20 points, the upsell on the kill rig is like so much better. But at 135 for the defensive profile that a Hunter rig has is like crazy. But obviously kill rig is like way stronger. Like maybe there's a universe where you take like all 6. You burn like whatever that is, 1,000 points or whatever. 1, 2, 3, 900 points, 930 points or something, and you get all 6 rigs. And you like call it a day? Probably not, but it definitely is. That's theoretically interesting. But yeah, this is even the worst version, right? Here's the bad data sheet, and you're coming in at T10, 16 wounds with a 6+ feel no pain already. I guess the kill rig at one point had an inbound save. I don't believe it does anymore. No, it lost its inbound save. That's okay. We forgive it. But it does have the 6+ feel no pain. So you're talking about the equivalent of like 19 to 20 wounds, theoretically, at T10, with a pretty solid armor save to begin with. That already is good for 155. And then you're also adding strong, I guess like not insanely strong shooting, but definitely not ignorable shooting, plus strong melee, plus a ridiculous force multiplication effect, unless you roll a 1 and then you feel bad. I just think these things are amazing, and the fact that they got points decrease is huge, absolutely huge. To be fair, Orks are kind of in a similar position to Genestealer Cults, where like it feels like everything went down. So I think Ork armies are going to be, at the very minimum, are going to be just better than they were. I imagine that we see a bigger emphasis on stuff like Beast Snagaboys, because they're cheaper. We could see the big boys bricks a little bit more often now too, because they're significantly cheaper. I don't know if we'll see the other big stuff like the super heavy seem kind of whatever, but the one that really stuck out to me, and we did talk about it when the update got posted, the one that really stuck out to me was the kill rig, because that thing was already, I think, pretty playable, and now is just super good, super duper good. Are you correct that the +1 strength buff stacks? It sure fucking does, chats. Yeah, if you have 3 kill rigs, they can all point at 1 unit and give it +3 strength. They can point at themselves too. There's no sort of targeting restriction. It's just a friendly orc unit within 12. So they can, at the minimum, right, on a 2+, all of these profiles are +1 strength. So at the minimum, they have strength 11 attacks, 4 strength 9 attacks, 4 strength 6 attacks. assuming you roll off the thing. You might also get lethal hits, which is big. If you roll out the lethal hits, like you get enhanced critical effects, which can buff that too. And you can, if you have multiple kill rigs, you can push those numbers to even higher. And that's just the kill rigs alone. If they're doing that to 20 boys, then suddenly the universe ends. Is it only auras of the same name that can't stack? Yeah, so auras as a base level cannot stack, and anything that has a named effect, it applies to you. So a good example is like suppression. I think suppressors do that, which I guess we'll probably talk about in a second anyway. I believe that it is, yeah. So like this is a good example. So the Suppressor Squad says that when it hits you with their autocannon, you are suppressed. While suppressed, you get -1 to hit. If you have multiple instances of suppression, it doesn't do anything because you're still suppressed. You've just been suppressed again, and that doesn't stack. If it is a non-named effect, so this just says add 1 to strength. It doesn't say the unit is enraged. While enraged, add +1. Because it doesn't say that, because it just adds a base characteristic modifier, you can stack those infinitely. That's why the same is true for, there's a couple other really powerful ones. The Rend Master and Chaos Demons stacks multiple times, which is why it got nerfed. Fair enough. And the Great Unclean one also in Chaos Demons can also do that. And there's a couple of other instances as well of effects that work like that. But the Kill Rig is one of the is a super good one for orcs. This also lets you, like, you can buff, like I said, you can buff anything, right? So you can buff like vehicles, you can buff other kill rigs, big blockers, anything, literally anything can get the buff. It's very good. And so you're talking about a good buff on a unit with a good gun, and that's also survivable and also is a transport. It's like, it gets you coming and going, dude. It's good everywhere. And it's honestly one of the best guns in orcs because it doesn't have to use their shitty 5+ ballistic skill. It's the word tower. It's the last one because it's auto hits. Yeah, the torrent is huge. Might have to consider 2 Redeemers. Yeah, Redeemers might be back, chat. I don't know. It just felt like a Redeemer kind of situation. But that might just be because I'm spending some time in Space Marines right now. And Redeemers are good. I don't know. So, yeah, that is what I think about those factions. Let's go to the next one. These ones are less exciting, I think. I kind of put this slide in here because I felt like it was worth saying. Demons, Beast of Nurgle went down, and those are good. So, I don't know. You could take them more often. It is what it is. Tau, Crew Carnivores going down, I think puts them into most lists. Tau aren't really like hurting for utility right now, but it does feel like Crew Carnivores are one of those profiles that's like just really good on a baseline because you get this like this a battle line infantry unit that scouts and is obsec, and having that at a good points cost is huge. I think Kroot Hunting Pack is very competitive now, and I think the Kroot points cost reduction is a big part of that. But at the very least, I think we maybe start to see Kroot start to take the place of some of the other forward operators that Tau have been taking in order to open up points for their more expensive shooters, because they did see some nerfs to their bigger gunships and Riptide battlesuits and stuff like that. So it may be that people start to just like cycle Tau into their, or cycle Kroot into their Tau, their regular detachments, into their Monkars or Kalyans, just in order to make room for those other points cuts. But yeah, I don't know. 6.5 points model for a OBSEC scout. Good battle line? Okay. Seems good to me. Beast even more buffed Death Guard? Yeah, I don't disagree for sure. I do wonder how often Death Guard slot them in though, because it feels like the Nurgle, you have to have Nurglings to take the beasts, right? Which is a little bit awkward. You probably already have Nurglings, to be fair, but it's like weird to have to take both of them. And they also are just basically another Death Guard unit that doesn't get like your detachment abilities and stuff. because they work a lot like all other Death Guard units, but they are cheaper than anything else in the faction besides like a single stupid character. So I don't know. It's definitely not bad for sure. Demons didn't really move in the meta. Yeah, I think if anything, they went down, to be honest. It feels like... I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things shake out. But it feels like some of the factions that they struggled with got significantly better. Demons do feel a little sad into like massed Space Marines. And it feels like, Ultramarines are going to be everywhere. So they also, I think, struggle a little bit with stuff like Orks and maybe Genestealers, although I'm less convinced about that. Certainly, the Outlander clause with all the vehicles might be tough for them because they have a tough time killing transports at range. So if anything, I think Demons actually lost traction. Beasts of Nurgle didn't because they're just cheaper now. But the faction as a whole probably dipped a little bit. I feel like I don't know. It felt like they needed a little bit more oomph in order to make some space. The graders, I think, are like still the only source of damage in the faction, and are still like a little overcosted, maybe like 5%, but it is what it is. Having no save, yes, I part of it is I think there's like a weird sort of design discrepancy between Demons and everyone else because the intent of the edition was that everyone becomes easier to kill or harder to kill, excuse me, because of all these like improved saves and cover mechanics. And they didn't give in, like Demons didn't get any of that. So they just become easier from 9th edition to kill than where everyone else is getting harder to kill, which was very, very weird. So, yeah, I don't know. At least they got Endless Eddie, so he'll be okay. But everyone else is struggling a little bit. Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know if I love Demons, but I do think Beasts of Nurgle. At 65 points, pretty good. They're competing with fast utility units, so how often you see them, I don't know. But, like, Demons are not exactly hurting for stuff in the like the 60 to 80 point category. They have a bunch of little 5-man and squads and independent stuff that's really good in that slot. But it is so it's a hotly contested place out there. But Beasts at least are one of the tougher to kill units inside that area. Yeah. And then there's Kroot. Kroot are great. I don't know. I also wonder if there is a shout out to be made to Kroot characters here. I didn't end up sort of including them, but I was wondering. I don't know if I'm entirely convinced. I did see some successful lists that were running lone characters. The Trail Shaper, I think actually all of the Shapers, I'm going to double check my math on this one. Are Scout Infiltrators, which is like just a really good combination of keywords to have. Let me double check that before I misspeak. I know that the Trail Shaper is concretely. Yeah, the War Shaper is, and the Flesh Shaper is as well. Yeah, they're all Stealth, Infiltrate, Scout. They don't have Lone Operative, obviously, which is a little bit awkward. And they have leadership abilities that they would lose. But you can do stuff like you can take like independent war leaders, and then you can use like free strats on them because that's not required them to be leadership, it's not a leadership ability. And you can just use them as forward operators. But they're characters; they give up assassination when you do that, and like that's points that could be taken up in stealth suit teams. So like I don't know if I necessarily believe in their use case as an independent unit, but I do wonder if there's a universe where we start to see like the lone like War Shaper or Flesh Sleeper like wandering around just doing actions and stuff. I also wonder, like, the War Shaper is kind of cool because you could like You could even like infiltrate, scout him, and then, or infiltrate him, and then trail shaper him into reserve, I think, and then rapid ingress him for free. It's kind of like cute, I guess. Is it good? I don't think so. Definitely score you at behind enemy lines though, for sure. Finally, seeing people take the sniper on a newt. Is it a lone spear? The newt sniper? I don't know if I've ever heard that before. Demon players can have success. They simply have to run 3x of the best data sheets. What are the best data sheets, WOG Tactics? In your opinion, what is that? What is that? Is it 3 great unclean ones? Because that's probably the case. I am playing Great Unclean Ones tomorrow, chat. I built the list, the triple Lord of Change, triple Great Unclean One list, and we're giving it a go. I don't think I like the version that I built because I built it while I was at the gym in like 5 minutes so that I could submit it to an event. But we'll see how it goes. I think there's a better version in there somewhere. There is no Rodigus. No, Rodigus doesn't have Nurgle's Rot, so he didn't fit the theme. Rodigus is fine, but in that particular list, he was less valuable than a Great Unclean One. Imagine Kroot hot flak enhancement is basically Albert Hitchcock's the birds. Yeah, you try to go shoot that guy, and you just get your eyes pecked out, and now you can't see. 3 Slanesh character chariots. No Ogryn tribe. No Ogryn tribe yet. I have so much to play, chat. Oh my god. I'm working through like 2 Space Marine lists right now, and this Demon list that we came up with yesterday. And I was gonna run through like a bunch more Space Marine stuff. I don't know. There's the meme list. The meme list like market has exploded with this update, in my opinion. There's a bunch of good stuff. 60 Nurglings, Great Unclean Rodigus. I definitely don't know about 60 Nurglings, but like 12 Nurglings is actually sick. Yeah, I think it would be 36 mixed Nurglings. It used to be 60, right? Because you could, or it used to be 54. You could take them up to 10 or up to 9. Yeah, now they're up to 6 per unit, but close enough. The max Nurglings. All right, chat. Once you Rodigus buff the Nurglings, they actually kind of go insane because they have lethal hits and you just like mass attack your opponent down. But it definitely will lose out in the long run. It's a little inconsistent. Let's talk about the next faction. Astra Militarum. This one over here on the left felt kind of dumb. I was like, I guess I might as well put these guys in here. They didn't go down or anything, but they are new as of this update. And I think they're ridiculously strong. They already looked good, and I think people have been proving that they're just really, very, really, really good. Even in the worst case scenario, where you pay 90 points for a unit that gets to shoot and then do an action and set up anywhere in your opponent's deployment zone, they're already good. If you also include the fact that you can rapid ingress them to like fuck with your opponent, and also shoot them during their turn, they get nutso. And I think that there's like having a 3-inch deep strike on a 10 model unit that also shoots when it drops is so much flexibility for a strong player to take advantage of that it's like crazy. It's insane. So yeah, I don't think it's a controversial take to say that I think Tempestus Aquilons are really good. And they're only in here because they weren't in the previous update, and they're new. Yeah. Denied secondaries 4 times with rapid ingress. Is it a GT with Aquilon specifically, or just in general? Oh, the kitty's here. What's up, kitty? Chat wants to see you. Oh, she's gonna sit directly in front of my screen, so I can't see what I'm looking at. Fair enough. You know what? To each their own. With Aquilons? Yeah, that's so brutal. Yeah, they're probably too cheap. I don't know. It might just be like the 3-inch. I think maybe a a slightly farther deep strike, like a close deep strike would be okay, rather than 3 if it was like 6 for the units that can deep strike 3 inches. But I do like close deep strikes as a general mechanic. I do wonder if once we get to the point where there's a lot of like too many 3-inch deep strikes, it's just so strong that everyone has to take infiltrators. But I don't know. I haven't decided about that yet. I don't know how I feel about it. I think we'll have to see how the metagame shapes out. This is, I think, the first time. It's certainly the first time where we've had a sub 100-point unit with it on its data sheet, right? Because the only other 3-inch deep strikers are like Inceptors that are really expensive and very small. So this is probably a stress test of the mechanic. If Tempestus Aquilons end up being okay, I think it's okay everywhere, but I imagine that they end up being really good. I also wonder if in the future we see a change where you can only 3-inch deep strike on your turn. That would be a big change, I imagine, would happen. What's up, kitty cat? Oh, you're so big and you're so annoying. You're gonna come hang out on the chair. Gotta move the kill team boxes somehow. Yeah, they do feel very aggressively costed for sure. Can you use Deep Strike turn 1? So that's an interesting question, Diego. I'm going to say in almost every case you cannot. There are some special abilities that allow you to. And the way that the rules work, the core rules allow it, but effectively every game format says you can't. So it's a whole can of worms. But basically, in the core rules, you can always deep strike in your reinforcement step. However, if you play Grand Tournament rules, so like in Arcs of Omen tournament rules, or you play Crusade, for example, or you play a lot of the special missions, those will have a rider in the battle formations section that says units placed into reserve during battle formations cannot arrive in the first battle round. So I would say technically yes, but in almost every situation in which you're playing 40k, no, is the answer. So basically no. That's a really long way of saying no. It's a perennial gripe we have with the rules. It makes no sense that they wouldn't core rule it, because every time they release a format, they have to then add a rule into that format that says you can't deep strike turn 1. But it is what it is. Strategic reserves are specifically prevented from coming in battle round 1 because they just simply do not allow you to. But deep strike you can for whatever reason. Did I say Arcs of Omen? Oh, Blarg Zombie was talking about Arcs of Omen in the Discord earlier, and it's like wormed its way into my brain. Pryonexus or Leviathan, excuse me. Jesus Christ. I'm already regressed back to 9th edition. Oh, man. Bonus, I thought it was 90 for 5. No, you can't take small units at all. They just don't allow you to. Yeah, it's 90 for 10 models. It's crazy. They should probably be like 120 points. Because, like, if you compare them to regular Tempestus Ions, like, regular Tempestus Ions are only a point more expensive, and they just trade the 3-inch deep strike for special weapons and rerolls. So it's like, I don't know. If you compare them in faction to other deep strike options, they obviously fulfill a very different role, but they do feel very inexpensive. There's Blarg Zombie. Wait, if you say Arcs of Omen 3 times into a mirror, then Blarg Zombie appears behind you. That's what I know. You always revive them. I don't believe they can be revived, chat. Because they're non-regiment, right? I'm gonna double check myself. They also basically don't get ordered, too, which is the other thing. Okay, I can't find it. We're just gonna open the PDF like a real person. Oh, they are regiment. Oh, just kidding. Oh, that's crazy. I actually was under the impression that they weren't. That's nuts. Holy shit. All right. Yeah, no, they're definitely a regiment. Okay. Yeah, you do always revive them. Insane. Okay, fair enough. Egg on my face, chat. I think I was living in blissful ignorance of your ability to bring them back. I think I was just like, there's no way that they would regiment keyword them, right? There's no way. Nope, they did it. Oh, what they missed is I think, okay, I know it. I conflated that with the Tempestus Ions keyword. Because they're Militarum Tempestus keyworded, but they aren't Tempestus Ion keyworded. The thing you can't do with them is attach the Tempestus Command Squad. Which I think is what I was thinking of. But there, yeah. That was my brain fart right there. Yeah. It's possible that there'll be a battle line and an inevitable Tempestus detachment come January. There's no fucking way, dude. Could you imagine? They're like, hey, not only we'll just regen and then we'll automatically score you a War of Attrition every single game, and there's literally no way to stop it. Like, okay, man. It was already automatic, but now it's even more automatic. That's crazy. Yeah, they can grenade. Somebody did point that out in my Tempestus Ion vehicle video. They can grenade when they drop, but it requires that they don't. They have not shot yet that turn. But it is optional whether they shoot their sentry open when they drop. You don't have to resolve the attack and then stop yourself from grenading. So if the plan is to grenade something big, then like you might as well just hold the one flamer shot or whatever. Once GWs hit sales goals, they'll always raise the price. Yeah, I don't want to be like super cynical, but it does feel that way sometimes. Like, I don't know. For every one thing, it feels like they're like, you know, pushing. They're like super duper price, like gouging the price on whatever. There's like another thing where they release a new box and then the like points are just like super meaningless and don't make sense. I guess that might be different for Kill Team though. Have there ever been like any like hyper non-playable kill teams that have released? That's actually a really good question. I guess being someone who has never once looked at a kill team, I actually don't know what is a kill team box versus what is a regular box. Can we see? I guess it's probably easier just to go to the kill team section. Oh, this menu, okay. Is there a kill team section? No. Okay. Is it in ways to play? No. Alright, I'll fuck myself, I guess. They don't have a kill team section? Okay. Alright. Wow. They really don't differentiate, huh? It's all in there. Alright, we'll just look up kill team. See if I can think of any off the top of my head. Some of them are just stuff, right? Like this is a Neophyte Hybrid Squad. Commandos were a downgrade when they came out, but that was just because they changed the unit size, right? Blooded, that's just a cultist squad, right? Those are just normal units. These were not playable when they released. So that's a good example of a unit that just saw literally no play when they dropped. They were like cool, but they didn't come out. Jaegers were really good. Scouts were good, but they were good before, so I don't know if that counts. Oh, are those all the kill teams? Well, now we're into Age of Sigmar, so I guess so. So yeah, I guess they don't have a perfect track record, but a lot of their stuff is like just already in codexes, so I don't know. Like Mandrakes, if they didn't change the data sheet, it made it worse. We're always going to be playable. But Jaegers were really good when they came out. And these Aquilons are, I guess, as well. So it's like a coin flip shot. Oh, I guess they did see some Drukhari play because you could get CP regen, right? But that was like very specific in one faction, and only a couple lists took it. I do remember that in 9th edition when they dropped. All right, maybe egg on my face. But I don't. There wasn't. That's not like quite the same capacity, I guess, as the datasheet being broken, as much as it was just like a mechanical idiosyncrasy that made them good. Khazarkin were cracked. And Krieg were whatever. Khazarkin, yeah, were super dumb. I guess that was a kill team, but it was also a unit. It's like, I don't know. I guess it's weird because it's hard to differentiate between unit re-releases through a kill team box and new units that are kill teams, right? Because I don't think anybody, like, the Vespid kill team is going to be great just because Vespid are good. But, like, is that because it's a kill team? I don't know. They didn't change the datasheet at all. I think the Khazarkin would have been good even if they weren't a kill team box. Never forget the Psychophage was 175 at its release. Was it really? There's no way that's true. Was it actually 175 points? I thought it was like 150. Do I have my my Munitorums dating back that far back? Let's find out. How early do I have a Munitorum saved? I have the January one. Munitorum 23. Nope, this is 9th. How good were Psychophages in 9th edition, chat? This is June 23. Okay, I think this is the first one. No, at 125. You can't. Don't gaslight me like that, chat. Don't gaslight me. Vespers were just a cool model. Yeah. But I mean, regardless of like the rules updates and they have heavy weapons now or whatever, like no one's ever gonna take the heavy weapons realistically. You're gonna buy the box and make 2 Vespid 5-mans out of it, and they're basically just like a re-release of the old unit, right? They're like rules changed slightly to make them less silly, to make them less able to entirely prevent your opponent from using the rapid ingress stratagem. But I think that they were always going to be good because a 5-man uppy downy team is just good in general. They were not 125? No, they were definitely 125. This is Field Manual version 1, dated June 16th, 2023. Get out of here, chat. This is the correct document. I will not take no for an answer. 125 for a Psychophage. You can't convince me. Brood Brothers is pretty mid for a kill team because it's like it's a guardsman unit, right? If they released like Katie and Infantry Squad as a kill team, you wouldn't be that excited about it, right? Okay. Oh, I guess we didn't talk about these other units. Fuck. There it is. All right. We talked about Tempestus Aquilons for like 10 minutes, and then that was the whole thing. Ogryn. Ogryn to see some play. We have seen some play for Ogryn units in Chimeras, so it's like 130 point little thing. I think that Ogryn are interesting in the capacity where they can act as a front line for your Militarum army. They're not good at it, right? They will die pretty quickly, but they're super cheap, so it's like I don't know how much you care. The other benefit that Ogryn have is they fucking slaughter all the other light infantry. They have like 6 gunshots apiece and a bunch of melee attacks. So if all you're doing is just rocketing 3 Ogryn into like 5 Space Marines or whatever, these dudes will just mess those guys up. And you're trading down at that, or you're trading up at that point, because most people's utility units are cheaper than 3, or more expensive than 3 Ogryn. Even if you just dump 3 Ogryn into 10 like guardsmen and murder all of them, you're probably feeling okay about it. So I think as like a trading utility unit where they can run in, they can like take objectives, they can do actions, and they can stand on objectives for a while and make your opponent have to dedicate like higher than strength 3 weapons to kill them. Ogryn are pretty solid. You also get the additional bonus of Ogryn just being able to trade like wildly well into everyone else's shitty units. They're basically like if melee or if ranged Tyranid warriors could have a transport, is exactly what Ogryn are. almost precisely. Although their range profile is actually better, I think, and they get orders. But I think you would see ranged Tyranid warriors if you could put them into a Chimera. Unfortunately, Tyranids have not yet discovered the advanced strategy of building a truck, so there's no capacity to do that in the faction. But that's usually the place where we're seeing Ogryn, so we're seeing them in like 2s or 3s alongside dedicated transports, which I think is pretty cool. I don't think that they're useful in the same capacity that Ogryn are, where you take 18 of them and you run them into the front of your opponent's army and then like say go, because then they'll just all die and you lose 18 Ogryn. But if you can deliver them, and then you can deliver them into stuff that their guns are good at shooting at, then I think they'll definitely make their points back, because they are cheap for what you get. Maybe not against World Eater's Chaos Spawn. Yeah, well, who does win against World Eater's Chaos Spawn? That's the real question. And it's very silly. They definitely didn't consider World Eater's Chaos Spawn getting a 4+ Feel No Pain when they wrote that data sheet. They didn't think about that. Put them in a Hierophant! Chat! Why didn't I think of that? We finally found a reason to play ranged Tyranid warriors. You can take the Hierophant as the perfect delivery system for them. Alright, you got me. That's perfect! That's perfect! Hierophant might drop in points to coincide with the Space Marine 2 DLC. I'm shocked that they put a Hierophant in that game chat. I guess, like, this is the funny thing about Warhammer 40,000. I'm going to editorialize for a second. And I kind of love it, because Warhammer 40,000 exists as, like, the universe, I want to say. Like, the whole setting exists as, like, a series of freeze frames. And the funny thing about the Hierophant is, if you look at it, it's such a 3rd edition model, right? Let's bring up a Hierophant Bio Titan. If Kim's Workshop would load, that'd be great. Thank you. It's so 3rd edition, right? Because what 3rd edition loved to do is somebody watched like Aliens and was like, oh man, I love the spindly spider. I love the spindly spider. I love the like way too many overlapping armor plates. And I love the like, this guy has it a little bit less, but like the distended crest. And every 3rd edition Tyranid design had that. They've since moved away from basically all of those. They've brought back the armor plates. They actually, in the like later models, they moved to the armor plates being all solid, right? If you look at like the Exocrine and the Maleceptor and all that stuff, very few of them have this like segmented armor. They've actually brought that back in more recent Tyranid designs. But the funny thing about the Hierophant is that it's like so 3rd edition. When you put it next to more modern Tyranids, it doesn't look right? It like doesn't quite fit. It's like a different body plan. It's like too spindly. It's on 4 legs instead of 2. It's like, what's going on here? It feels like it's from a different game. This is like from the Starship Troopers game, and it's made its way into Warhammer. And so I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, there's no way this guy doesn't just get discontinued and written out. But the funny thing about Warhammer as a digital medium is that it captures those intermittent snapshots, like those freeze frames of the setting, because the aesthetic of the setting is determined entirely by the model range. And so you can look back like through the ages and find these really interesting ecosystems where like different designs coexist, right? Where you have like modern Tyranids with like old school Space Marines or whatever, and as soon as those get captured in like a digital format, like a video game, it's incredibly funny. And it's just so funny to look back on it and being like, this looks totally different than modern 40k, but like still has the capacity to exist in the same universe. And that, like, I think it's pretty cool. I don't know. It's like cool to do 40k data archaeology. Also, look at this. Like, we biff the cutout on this guy's like little thing here. Oh no, we mussed up the drop shadow on this guy. Oh, it doesn't look like it when you zoom out. But there's definitely missing a drop shadow underneath his little spines, which I'm not noticing, which is very funny. But anyway, chats, that's my tactical Tyrannosaurus side talking, because if you like that kind of discussion about 40k as like sort of a persistent like piece of living artwork, then go subscribe to that channel, because there's gonna be a lot of that talk coming in the next couple weeks. Hoping for a Norn Emissary in Space Marine 2? Yeah, so like the culmination of that is that I was shocked when they announced that there's a Hierophant in Space Marine, because I assumed that they would have like just brushed the Hierophant under the rug. But they do have some, I guess they don't have any like crazy old stuff in that game, right? It's like mostly new releases. They don't have like what would be like I guess a Hierophant's probably the oldest Tyranid design they included, right? The Helldrake? Oh, Hierophant predates Helldrake by like a decade. This model's from like 2004. This model is ancient history. Surprised they didn't have a Rogaldorn. Yeah, so that's the other thing too, right? And the other thing, so this is another, I love this stuff. It's so great. And this is why Space Marine 2 is super cool. If you're a fan of Warhammer as a setting, and as like a franchise, it's so funny, because it captures this point in time of like late 8th edition, early 9th edition 40k, where it's a freeze frame of that era of the game, where like the biggest, you know, there's no Rogaldorns, because at the time the game was being developed, Rogaldorns didn't fucking exist. They were not a non-canonical thing. Like they were in nowhere in the setting at all. At the time where all the assets for that game was being created, that was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. There were no Rogaldorns at that point. There were no jump pack intercessors. And you can tell because in the game, when they have to justify using a jetpack, they specifically call out that it is an Inceptor jetpack and that they're like retrofitting it onto their armor. You couldn't be a jump intercessor at the time that the game was being developed, and that has since changed in Warhammer. But because the game, like the design of the game, is like such a freeze frame from a past era, they had to basically use the setting as it existed at that point, and then kind of like carry it through. And now we're like looking back on this thing that's like already outdated on release because of how quickly Warhammer changes its aesthetic. Wild. It's so fun. It's so fun and cool. Only old Sentinels. There are power lifters in that game, chat. There are Sentinel power lifters, which like since don't exist. Yeah. It was a little funny because I think they used, maybe somebody can quote me if I'm wrong. I guess they didn't. They used the old Cadian design too, right? The old like round helmet, not the new like army helmet with the visor. Yeah, and it got delayed by a year. Which, honestly, thank God. Could you imagine if Space Marine 2 had not gotten delayed and like released as a buggy mess, and then everyone's like, "Wow, 40k games are stupid. What a mess this was. Why did you even make this?" But instead, we got like a tentpole release for the year, and it's a 40k game, dude. What? That's sick. Space Marine 2 is cool. It's such a cool can of worms, and I love talking about this stuff. That's why you subscribe to Tactical Tyrannosaurus. Because that's where I'm going to talk about it. I should keep all this discussion for my my channel that's all about it. Seeing some Khazarkin in action would have been cool. Yeah, if it's like 9th edition Khazarkin. they burst out of the brush and just like they vaporize 3 Carnifexes and a Hierophant, and Titus is like, what? Why am I here? They're like, sir, we have this. Stand back, my lord. We don't want you to get hurt. And the Khazarkin just like fucking scythe through an entire Hive fleet. I once lost 3 Carnifexes to a Khazarkin squad, and I was irate. I was like, this unit is so dumb. Why do they do 6 mortal wounds to everything they shoot at? It would have been nice to get better multiplayer, for sure. Anyway, chat. Let's talk about real Space Marines. I got some hot takes here, chat. Space Marines. I didn't put the characters in here. I think Uriel Ventress is a given. Ultramarines are probably one of the strongest Space Marine sub-factions right now. I don't know. I don't know much else to say there. It's really good. It's really good. We would basically just went back to like last year where Ultramarine and Vanguard was everywhere. It feels like that list has sort of returned. Any list that already was going to take Uriel Ventress just gets significantly better with him because he's just a way better datasheet now. Roboot Gilliman being not ludicrously overcosted is a big deal. Marnius Calgar is still good. Speaking of Space Marine 2 characters, Marnius Calgar is still just a fucking beatstick. What a datasheet that guy is. And yeah. So I didn't talk about that much, the character so much. I don't think that it's quite as interesting a discussion. Here's what I want to talk about, chat. First off, I think suppressors are great. I played suppressors over the weekend. I'm playing them later this week. I've got a list with suppressors in it. 75 points for 3 move 12 models, already good. The fact that they also get 9 2-damage shots is solid, especially if they feel like they're a good utility unit that can also just sort of like change the math on your damage. Where you're like, ooh, I really need to kill this thing. If I need to, I can shoot them with this Suppressor Squad. And the Suppressor Squad has a pretty good shot at clipping additional damage into them. It's just like, it's a nice thing, quality of life thing to have. The one downside that they have over Jump Pack Intercessors is that they're very bad at taking objectives because they don't really charge. But I think that's a small price to pay for being only 75 points and having a bunch of other stuff going for you. The suppression ability, also good. They probably just die when they commit because they're light, a little baby unit. But if you can get the suppression effect to proc for a turn, it's good. It like messes with your opponent's target selection, their target priority, because now they have to kill this fucking idiot unit that's off in the corner before they shoot their big tank. Like that's kind of sweet. Being a long range is good. Having deep strike is good. I have no bad things to say about suppressors. I think that they're really strong. Invader ATVs might be a hot take. 60 points is a good points value. If you're taking specifically a utility unit, I think they lose to scouts every time. But they are very fast and they are very hard to kill. Right? They're like T5 8 wounds if I remember correctly. And occasionally, if you have multiples of them, their ability to fire and their reactive fire is actually pretty good. So if you're taking several Invader ATVs, they can cover each other because they're all mounted. But being like a utility unit that is unironically difficult to kill, it's kind of a light vehicle profile, but they're also not vehicle keyworded so that they don't give up bring it down. And you get a multi-melta. So they're a utility unit that's cheap, that's hard to kill, and that can deal damage if it needs to. Downside is that they can't go through walls. So they're not really they don't really compete with other utility stuff, but I think it's definitely in the consideration. The one thing that's interesting is that if you have other like Melta synergies, so like Salamanders or a lot of Firestorm lists, I think start to consider putting 3 ATVs into their army because you get 3 of these little really fast independent activations. I also wonder if there's an argument for them in Ironstorm Spearheads too, because it's a 60-point unit that triggers a floating Ironstorm reroll. and can like play very aggressively, which is something that the detachment sometimes doesn't necessarily have. So I'm in on Invader ATVs. Those two are not, I think, the big winner of this data slate for Space Marines, besides the characters. Obviously, the characters are big. The big one, in my opinion, is the Stormspeeder Hammer Strike. I thought this thing was really good, and then someone in chat when I was playing on Sunday pointed out that I had mispointed them on my list, and they were actually like 15 points less expensive than I thought they were. They were at 150, and they went down to 125, right? They dropped like a ridiculous number of points. I'm going to double check my math on that. They went down to 125, which is insane. I think honestly, all the Storm Speeders I think are pretty good. The one I don't like is the Hail Strike. Its ability's okay. It's +1 AP against non-monster vehicle, but all its weapons are like super trash. It's good. It's like supposed to be an infantry sweeper, but its infantry sweeping weapons are not that great. And like honestly, you could just like take some guys and it's probably better. I don't know. I'm not that into that guy. But the Thunder Strike is good. Just generally good. It has good weapons, good ballistic skill, and gives you +1 to wound against vehicles. Excellent. The Hammer Strike, though, holy fucking shit. This guy gives you ignore cover when he shoots at something for 125 points. He has a big daddy missile launcher. Let's pull up his profile here. So he's got a big daddy missile launcher, 2 shot strength, 9 AP, 3 d6 damage. So he can trigger with a high reliability. He can trigger his Hammer Strike ability from 36 inches away. So he's like a hellhound. But he also has 1.5 multi-meltas strapped on the front of the hull. Plus this like Crackstorm grenade launcher, which honestly doesn't matter, but is cute. So theoretically, the dude shoots 5 d6 damage shots. Even if you use him in the capacity where for 125 points you take 1, he's a gun platform that sits at the back of your table edge. He moves 14, so it's really easy to get angles with him. And he flies, so you can go over stuff. It's like they're easy to move around. And just strips cover from things. Already for 125, that's good. If you also use him in the capacity where he's trying to push forward and get melta damage, he's equally good in that situation too. This dude rules. The Stormspeeder Hammer Strike, I'm going to go down on a limb. I'm going to say this guy is amazing. I think all the Storm Speeders, get the fuck out of here, virus protection. I think all the Storm Speeders are pretty solid. At least the Thunder Strike and the Hammer Strike. I think the Hammer Strike being only 125 points and having a generally more applicable ability is incredible. Incredible good. Yeah, also Deep Strikes. Yeah, don't forget about that. The Storm Speeder's Deep Strike, dude. What? That's crazy. Yeah, I use that in my game, actually. Yeah, these data sheets are amazing. They're T9 11 wounds. Like, they're harder to kill than a Rhino. Like, Rhinos are already, like, kind of annoying to kill. And these dudes also have 4 extra inches of movement and fly and higher OC value and a bunch more guns. They're not transports, obviously. It's like a different unit, but yeah, I think Storm Speeders are legitimately very good. And I think the Hammer Strike is the highlight of the 3. Dropped him within Scepters and Vanguard. Hell yeah. Yeah, the Hellstrike not good for sure. Yeah, I'm with y'all on that one, chat. So we're playing the list we're playing right now. I'll give you a preview on my meme list. Is all 9 Storm Speeders, and I think it's good. The Hellstrikes have definitely been the least exciting. The fact that they're like, I don't know. I guess it's good that they all have a dedicated role and they're like very dedicated in completing that role. But it is a little annoying that they like the Hailstrike doesn't have a missile launcher that does D6 damage or something, because like they just do literally nothing to big targets. You see something with like a toughness value higher than 3, and they're like I'm out. Scoop. They're also a little bit weird because the Hailstrike feels like it wants, unlike the Hammer Strike, which has super high base AP values. So the fact that your target is getting cover isn't that big of a deal. And then it can buff your other like mid-strength attacks. Like, you want to talk about the suppressors. Once those suppressors start shooting with ignore cover, they actually go kind of insane because they're only AP1. But once they're AP1 ignore cover, they start putting people on like invuln saves and stuff. But the Hailstrike feels like it really wants that +1 AP, but it can't benefit itself because it only affects after. It's like a weird anti-synergy. I don't know. I'm railing on the Hailstrike, but it's also only 115 points. Whatever. And if we're in a situation where we're trying to fight 1 million infantry, maybe they're really good. But the Hammer Strike has shocked me in my games so far with these guys. Hellblasters and Vanguard for Strike from the Shadow, AP and Supercharge, AP5 effectually. Ooh, that's spicy too. Yeah, that's really good. So I think the Storm Speeder list is one that I want to play. I think there's also I mentioned that Salamanders. I think I want to play triple Hammer Strike, triple Invader Salamanders, probably in Firestorm, but maybe also in Ironstorm Spearhead just to get the rerolls. I think there's a bunch of yeah, I don't know. I think there's a bunch of play with all these these MSU builds for Space Marines now, which I'm really excited about. I'm playing them in Ironstorm right now. People have told me to play it in Firestorm. The mass what do you call these? Storm Speeders. Jesus Christ. The mass Storm Speeders in Firestorm. I haven't played it yet. That's probably a next on the block if I don't end up liking Ironstorm. But it turns out getting 9 floating rerolls every turn, like at a base level, is really good. So I don't know. They're also sort of hard to kill, and importantly, they don't degrade. So another thing that's been really useful is the Power of the Machine Spirit reactive shot. Because oftentimes they're just hard enough to kill that it takes 2 activations to kill them, but they never get -1 to hit. So sometimes you rock this dude in, he melts you, you shoot him, and he melts you again. And then you die. And that's been really good. What's up, Inky? Not that it's always, incredible, but... I also, I don't think necessarily you have to bring them all together. I think just using Thunders or Hammers as just an army support piece is super powerful. And for them being cheaper too, it's also really, really useful. Especially, you also talk about, alongside new Uriel Ventress too. You have this dude who can, theoretically, he could potentially deep strike himself if he's not using it on somebody else, and just drop a Lord of Deceit on your opponent, and then you're ignore cover +1 AP, or I guess you're probably not +1 AP, but you're ignore cover and tax their Armor of Contempt, and suddenly you're punching through heavy armored stuff really easily. I don't know. I think the light mounted Storm Speeder builds for Space Marines are probably unexplored territory that are going to be surprisingly really good. The Hailstrike is the derpy dragon head me. Oh my god. Somebody make that. Where's the meme? Can we do it on the meme generator? Yeah. Here we go. Which one's which? Okay. Strike. Strike. Oh. What is it? Hailstrike. Perfect. It's perfect. Friends did not like bringing triple Lord of Deceit this weekend. That is incredible. Yeah, the new mass Lord of Deceit build is pretty solid for Vanguard Spearhead. GW needs to core roll that you can only get 1 Lord of Deceit model per army. I don't know. Do they need to? Because I think The weird part is Ventress just having it, right? Like, I don't... Did Ventress need a Lord of Deceit? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that's what pushes it over the edge. Is that you're a character you are already playing for other utility purposes also got that. In basically every other instance, I don't think it's that crazy. Because, like, the Phobos Lieutenant is kind of expensive once you add the enhancement on him, right? He's like 100 points. The Calidus is like 100 points, and that's basically what she does. If you have any other instances of it, so if you have like Bjorn the Fell-Handed, right? He's like hard to get into position. I think Ventress having it is maybe too strong, but it remains to be seen. It might be okay. I do appreciate that they did clarify it doesn't stack. Obviously, it was an aura, but it's like not affecting the model inside the aura. It's affecting a stratagem. So there's probably a weird argument that somebody had. I believe that they made it so that I think Lord of Deceit is a catch-all term now. It's like a colloquialism now. If I remember correctly, it's no longer called Lord of Deceit on anyone. They all have now their own like baked-in abilities, and they all just say that you can't tax more than once. I'll double check. Where is the Codex FAQ? I believe that that's how that worked. So it's like... Yeah, so it's called Unorthodox Strategist. Like Lord of Deceit is because that's what they called it last season. Lord of Deceit is just what people are going to call it. I don't believe that anyone's is called Lord of Deceit. I actually think that phrase got removed from the game, although somebody can correct me probably if that's the case. But now everyone just has an ability that says each time your opponent targets unit of the stratagem, if it's within 12, increase the cost of the stratagem by 1, not cumulative with other rules that would increase the cost of the stratagem. So you can't stack them because it explicitly says you can't in the thing. The new Calidus does? The new Calidus doesn't have Reign of Confusion? What? That would surprise me. Was that printed on... The aura wasn't printed on her card, right? Oh, maybe it was. Did the Calidus not get changed? I don't know, chat. I guess I could just look up the datasheet. This one says Reign of Confusion, but that's because I made it. I can't read it. I can't look into that too much. Oh, man. Still half the board being +1 CP is rough to play around. Yeah, I understand that, for sure. Yeah, I think part of the problem is that or I guess like all 3 of those are very maneuverable in the Spearhead version, because you have to, like, 2 of them are on lone operatives, one of them has a reactive move, and then one of them's on like a dude who can probably deep strike. The times when they're on like Kairos Fate Weaver, you're like, okay, man, just stay away from you, I guess. But when they're on these like little idiots running around, I can understand that would be a lot. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how things end up. It might be that it's too strong. Anyway, chat. Do we have any other... I do want to wrap things up because I am running a little late, actually. So do we have anything else that we want to discuss before we duck out here? The way they handled it with Drukhari was explicitly saying only the Warlord gets it. That's because that's the Archon ability. That's because it's an update to the Archon ability. We did have a long discussion actually in the Discord about how that worked, how that was technically worked previously. It was a little bit weird because it was kind of inconsistent because it said that you got Lord of Deceit if you had an ability that allowed you to tax someone's CP. But it didn't like specify. You know, the question was like how many riders you were allowed on that, right? You're like, well, technically, all Archons have an ability that allows you to attack CP, so they just can't use it. But the counter argument there is that then that model is not allowed to attack CP, so then they couldn't use it. It's definitely the implication was that in the previous version of Lord of Deceit, it only worked on your Warlord Archon anyway, but it was like kind of weird way to implement the effect. What's the likelihood that Leman Russ will be trash when they finally bring it back? Pretty high. I think it takes them a couple tries to get the Loyalist Primarchs right, because it's much harder to make a Primarch good if he's just a big man, rather than a huge winged demon prince that does 1 trillion damage and has many psychic powers. That sort of feels like the way of things with every Primarch every time they release one. They're like, guys, we released this thing. He has so many abilities, and he's going to be so expensive. And you're like, yeah, but he moves like 7 inches. So like, he's never going to get there. It doesn't matter how many abilities he has. So if he's really expensive, you're just never going to play him. They might have finally gotten there with Lion. Lion might be playable now, which is good. Yeah, I think that, like, to be honest, the Archon thing, I kind of, like, figured that they would all get it. I think that it's a bad faith argument, though, to be fair. I think the intention was pretty clearly that only the Warlord got it, that it was, like, an update of the Warlord ability. Because I think it's, like... I think the rule could reasonably have been interpreted both ways, and the way that is consistent with the previous way the rule worked is probably the correct way. And I think it was like literally a coin flip, so you might as well go with the safer option, which is why. And then I think WTC came down on it and said that only the Warlord gets it, and then everyone else just follows their example, which in that case I think is fair. Can you trigger a Gladius reactive move and a Sicarius reactive move to get D6 plus 6? I think it depends on the. It depends on the event format. The answer is that I don't believe the rules say whether or not you can use multiple reactions against a single enemy movement. In my opinion, you should be able to. I do think that games should generally have a rider that says that you can't trigger multiple reactions against a single triggering event, but it is what it is. Can we see if we can find the Poland GT? I don't have enough information, to be honest. I'd just be like Googling wildly. Well, so rules as written, the ability gets replaced if you could tax someone's CP. So the argument is that only the Warlord could tax someone's CP. So everyone else's abilities are the same, which means they don't do anything because they're not the Warlord, right? Is Gilliman worth buying and playing now? I think he's fine. I think Gilliman's totally okay. Can't believe Bobby G is 5 points cheaper than a Assimilator. Yeah. That's because it's a Tyranid. You gotta pay the Tyranid tax for being a Tyranid. They'll probably add reactive moves and surge moves in the next update. I fucking hope so, dude. I fucking hope so. It is annoying that everyone's reactive move is slightly different. Oh, jeez. Ask the TO just to be sure. Yeah, that's the correct response. So like the weird argument is that if you have declared a reactive move, you are not then immediately after the unit finishes its move. So your timing to declare a second reactive move is over. Is what the is what I think the general consensus is, even though I don't know if like the declaration of the use of an ability is like a game action, but like 40k and timing rules are like oil and water, right? So that's where a lot of event circuits come down on it, I think. So that's, I think, the general interpretation by the community is like once you've declared a thing, the last thing that's happened is that thing has been declared. So you can't declare another thing in response to the thing that happened previously, which is weird, but I don't know. It is what it is. What about the second reactive move? We had one, yes. By that argument, Aquilons can't be overwatched. Well, those would be simultaneous effects, right? And they would get sequenced, right? Because they both happen after the unit sets up, I assume. We'll bring up our Aquilon again. I do agree that it's like kind of scuffed. I think there's like a can of worms that opens if you go that way, and I'm not really sure where it ends up, but it's just when it is set up, which I think is, I don't know. There's a rules commentary on what when versus immediate versus after means, right? Because Overwatch says after, yeah. Overwatch says just after. I think the timing actually works, right? Because the yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, so the servo sentry, the unit drops like inside their drop. The servo sentry shoots. Oh, I think it's probably fine. I think you put the unit, and before the setup is resolved, technically, the servo sentry shoots, and then Overwatch is triggered. I think that's how that's actually theoretically works. I forget what the commentary says though, because it's changed a million times. Let's look real quick. What does the commentary say when means? I have my face camera up. I'm sorry, chat. Oh God. If you look up when in the commentary, it's a mess. So after, immediately, and just after are all simultaneous, but they never define what when means. I think when just means that the precision drop or the deep strike is resolved, is considered to be resolved after the servo sentry shoots. So I think the unit shoots, the servo sentry always triggers first, and then you can do whatever you want after that. I feel like that's how the actual timing works. Oh, hey, now the rules commentary and the core rules are just different docs. Yeah, it's a mess, dude. Unfortunately, Games Workshop is a corporate entity and has to be totally consumed by bureaucracy. Wish they do a 10.5 edition after the codexes are out. They will. It's called 11th edition, and they're going to reintroduce every single one of the things that the rules commentary defines here. They're going to erase and then have to go through a full year of redefining them. So get ready for that. Hope everyone's psyched for that, chat. Hope everyone's excited to have all these conversations again 2 years from now. Woo! What a mess. What if we start a GoFundMe for me to buy GW? Oh, jeez. I'd run it into the ground, chat. I can write rules for a game all day, but I can't run a business. Let me tell you. If I can run a business good, Well, this would be a Breach Storm channel. All right, chance. Rather editions be 5 years, 18 months, so y'all get with all codexes out. Yeah, just gotta do a remix. Yeah, that's like most games do, right? They do new editions like once the previous edition becomes stale, not as soon as they finish releasing all of the content for it. But whatever. That's why none of the other games are like multi-billion-dollar companies. Turns out the way to make a bunch of money in the miniature game industry is be the biggest person on the block and then like grift your audience for $1 million. You know. Anyway, chat. I'm gonna go ahead and pop off here. I am running. Oop, I'm running late. So I am gonna have to leave you. After the stream concludes, you will be put to the page for the Battle Against Breast Cancer. Please hit the little notification button over there, so you get pinged when we go live. We're going to be live Friday morning through Sunday eventide. It's going to be a good time, I think, and we're gonna be doing some charity works and stuff over there too. They have a big charity page that we can donate to, and I think we're going to be trying to push their raffle as much as possible. Obviously, make some money for the charity. I had a second ago which charity there. The American Cancer Society. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. I just brain farted. American Cancer Society is who we're raising money for. So, yeah, please come hang out with me all event for that. They're doing a big raffle. It's going to be a good time. Away Games is running it, so it's going to be a tight ship, and I'm excited. Otherwise, if you're following me on Twitch, twitch.tv/TacticalTortoise, I am going to be live tomorrow, sort of afternoon-ish, U.S. Eastern Time, and I'm going to be live on Thursday morning. So please come hang out with me for those. And otherwise, I'll see y'all later. So cheers, everybody. Keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming, and I'll see you in the next stream. Bye.